Santiago Velasquez, Disabilities, the Avenue to Solutions.
Hi guys, long time no see. So, you gotta start these presentations with some sort of laughter, right? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Santiago Velasquez, and I originally hail from Colombia. Based on that joke, most of you might have assumed that I have a vision impairment, and you are correct. Before starting, I want to do a little exercise, and I would like everybody to close their eyes. Okay? I can see you if you don't do it. So with that in mind, I'm going to do an exercise, and with everybody's eyes closed, I'm holding something in my hand right now, and you have 1 minute to figure out in any way, shape, or form that you see fit what it is. Who has any ideas?
What is it?
That's the only question you can't ask. It's a rectangular shape. It's not a clicker. It is electronic, yes.
What does it do?
Quite a lot of things.
Is it an iPhone?
It is an iPhone.
Booyah!
All right. What I wanted you can open your eyes, by the way. What I wanted you guys to do and to understand, for those of you who have never sort of had a disability, is, as Sarah mentioned, I'm vision impaired and I'm studying electrical engineering. When I'm in a lecture and the professor says, hey, look at the graph, and we can see that this and that and this and that and this and that and this and that. That doesn't mean anything to me. And as a person who has lived for 23 years with a vision impairment, every single day, independent of what I'm doing, I have to come up with different ways of understanding the world around me. So the general question when somebody says, look at this, my first reaction is, can I feel it? Can I hold it? And when you think about it, it's fairly rational. You can't see it, and if it's a tangible object, why can't you hold it? I want to mention a philosopher. His name is Peter Singer, and some of you might know him. He's originally from Australia. He's currently teaching at Princeton University in the United States. I have a guide dog with me at the moment. His name is Lockie. And Peter Singer, a while back, said that it would be better to divert all of the funding that goes towards training guide dogs and cure people from a vision impairment. Now, I love my guide dog. He's amazing. And if any of you have them, you know how integral they are for our lives and what a wonderful pet they become. When Peter said that, he's missing the whole point. He's assuming that we're broken and we must be fixed. I'm not broken. I'm pretty happy the way I am. I have, in the past, driven a car. I have scuba dived. I've done running. And for those of you who are from Australia, the Kokoda Challenge, the Oxfam Trail Walker, and for those of you who are not, they are endurance events. I have decided to do a degree that most people thought I was crazy for choosing. And the point that I would like everybody to take is I never thought, I'm blind. So, well, life is tough. I'm just going to stay at home, and that's that. And every day we do that. And I forget about all of the different things that I do to move around the world, because to me, they become second nature. For those of you who cannot see at the moment, we have a slide. And it's a fairly simple slide. There are two pictures. And one of them, I'm pouring cold water into a cup. And in the other one, I'm pouring hot water into a cup. If you can see, it doesn't matter how you hold the cup, because you're always going to see the level of the water. If you cannot, You can't see the level. And you can't use the same strategies for cold and hot water. One, your fingers will burn, and I don't know about you guys, but I like my fingers the way they are. So what I'm doing right there is a very simple task that you don't think about. You don't think about pouring anything into anything because you just do it. You go to your fridge, you take out your milk, and if you want to make tea, if you just want to drink milk, if you want to make Milo, if you want to pour apple juice, you just pour it. But you never think the change in temperature has an effect. So currently, the cold water, I am pouring it and I have my finger over the top of the cup so I can feel it when it reaches the top. But the hot one, I'm just holding the outside and I'm just feeling the temperature and listening to the sound because the water makes a different sound when it's hot. And these type of situations occur in every single scenario. I'm originally from Colombia. I came here when I was 12 years old. And prior to that, my knowledge of accessibility was, I'm blind, you're able to do anything you set your mind to, but that's it. I didn't know that there were supports. I didn't know that cities could be accessible because, sadly, in my country, due to other issues, that has taken a back step. So when we arrived in Australia about 10 years ago, and when we were picking a school, to my parents and myself, the only thing that mattered was, is it close to where our family is? Because might as well stay close to our family in case anything happens, being new to the country and such. And that was the approach we took. We found a school that was close. We registered, my brother and I. We bought the uniforms, and we were excited. I show up to the first day of class with my uniform. I didn't speak the language. I was nervous, but that was the only thing that made me nervous, nothing else. And then we get to the office, and the director of the school, the principal, says to us, can you come into this room? We have to have a chat. And I thought, oh, that's very nice. Welcome party. That was not the case. He said to us, and my mum and I at the time didn't speak any English, and my cousin was translating. He said, we can't take your son because he's blind and we don't have the resources to teach him. And to me and my mum, that didn't make sense because I just came from a school in Colombia that the only resource they had was the professor would read out loud what he was writing on the board, or a friend would sit next to me and we would do the exercises together on the book. But no other resources existed. So, and I still managed to get top grades in my class in Colombia. So to my parents and myself, I thought, well, that doesn't make sense, but I guess we're in a different country. Let's find out what it is. And for the past 10 years, that has been my experience. It has been people saying, but you're blind, why are you attempting that? And nobody has done it before, so why should you do it? And we come to the point of, yes, I know I'm blind. You're not telling me anything that I don't already know. This is not new. And if you're just figuring that out, you have bigger issues than me being blind. So I still, and that brings an interesting memory because when I was a kid, at school, I used to get really annoyed. This was in Colombia. I used to get really annoyed when a guy used to call me four eyes, blind, blind, blind. And I arrived home one evening being very annoyed, very pissed. And I said to my mum says to me, why are you upset? Oh, just a kid keeps calling me blind. And she says, honey, but you are blind. And I'm like, oh yeah, I am blind. And for the foreseeable future, we continued with that, people calling me blind, and I'm like, yeah, I know that. Now, recently I had the opportunity to attend the Conference of States' Rights for Persons with Disabilities at the UN. And one of the round tables that we had focused on accessible technology. Given my background and given the work that I do, I thought that it would be appropriate for me to attend. But one of the things that I felt lacking at the UN, which is the top of the top of the top in terms of what we say everybody listens to us, was everybody was saying, let's build accessible technology. Let's build accessible technology, full stop. Nobody said that it would be appropriate for us to encourage people with disabilities to pursue degrees in the STEM fields so that people with lived experience could develop technology that not only benefits them, but it benefits the wider community. And it was interesting seeing the reaction of people because they're like, I guess if I'm designing a TV, I wouldn't want a blind guy designing it. I wouldn't hire myself, I can tell you that. And it comes to this, and in an everyday environment, this is a picture of an elevator call button, if you can call it that. It's not. So I don't know if most people are aware, a lot of buildings are going into elevators where instead of having buttons on the inside where you press the floor where you want to go to, you select the floor where you want to go to. On the outside, it assigns you a elevator shaft and you get on it and it takes you there. The problem with the design of these systems is that they have the, as Angel said, the accessibility button, and it really, really pisses me off because that button, in order for me to get from level 4 in this building to level 9, which is 5 floors, it takes me about 2.5 to 3 minutes from pressing that button to get a card assigned to me. And the voice is very loud, it's very slow, and while I'm using that system, nobody else can say, oh, excuse me, I want to press my floor. So everybody's standing around you saying, should I ask him if he wants any help? No, wait, I don't know him. Oh man, he's blind. Maybe he's going to think I'm being annoying. Anyway, I decided that was really annoying. So one of the designs that, if you think about it, can be done to benefit more people is the other picture, which instead of having an accessibility button, we have a keypad. And on the side of the keypad, we have in Braille the top and bottom floors of the building. So you still have the touchscreen for people who want to use that, but you have a system that in this case allows you to use it as a vision impaired individual, but it doesn't detract from anybody else in the usage of the system. And we see this every day. We see this type of design where, I'm sorry I couldn't add this one to the slide, but yesterday I was at the Opera House and the disabled toilets were very pretty and very well designed. But the button, the door was automatic, so it closed by itself. All well and good. But it only had one button, and that button said open. And the way in which you know that the system and the door is locked is a red light turns on. Nothing else. Now, if you can't see, that's a bit of a problem. So these sorts of things, and then seeing Braille underneath Perspex, that doesn't really do much for anybody reading Braille. And I can go into web apps, I can go into native apps, I can go into many things. But we need to realize that people with lived experiences can provide great input into the design of systems, processes, products, and services that don't marginalize us as a community, but also people with no disabilities benefit from it. 2 projects that I'm currently leading, one has to do with a tactile display so that vision impaired individuals can feel graphical content in real time, as well as Braille in the same thing. And the other one has to do with public transport. If you're blind, you can't see a bus coming, so you can't hail it. And a lot of the times you get left behind because you can't hail it and the bus driver just can't see you. So At the beginning, those projects did begin by saying, well, I'm blind, I'm annoyed that the bus leaves me behind and my guide dog and I are in the hot sun waiting for half an hour and being late to a meeting. But when talking to other colleagues, we realized that if you have a pram and if you're after a bus, it's very hard to run in a crowded station through people and hoping that the bus doesn't pull out. If you're a person with mobility impairments, it is, again, very difficult. And once you're on the bus, the other issue is if you don't know the route, your phone it's good, but it's generally not good enough to tell you when to get off because you're inside a metal box. So all of these projects stemmed from the idea that, yes, I'm visually impaired, I'm fully aware of that. And if you are just discovering that, there is a serious issue with a lot of other things. But with my lived experience and with the ability of us to encourage people with disabilities to pursue a STEM degree, we are not going to be doing accessibility because it's the right thing to do. We all know that. But we need to understand that just because it's the right thing to do, it doesn't mean it needs to be done. People don't work that way. We need to give more incentives, and we need to make sure that people understand why accessibility is important. We live in a world that was not designed to be accessible. So every day we are solving problems, no matter whether it is pouring hot water, selecting a lift, catching a bus, reading, and so on and so forth. So you better believe that as disabled people, we have mad-ass problem-solving skills. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, up. Somebody, let's go, let's go. Okay, come on, let's go. Forward, come on, let's go.
Santiago, you're running away.
Oh, I didn't know we were doing questions. My bad. Lucky, fine left. Are we doing questions?
We will absolutely ask people if they like questions.
Oh, sure,
Would you
100%.
like-
Yes. Forward, buddy. There we go. Come on, let's go. There we go. I'm just looking at the crowd, and you guys all look sleepy.
Everyone's hanging out for their morning coffee, I reckon. But we will hold up your morning coffee for a sec to ask for questions for Santiago.
I can't see any hands up.
I will run around. Just a sec.
No worries.
Hi Santiago, it's Gary Austin. First of all, great respect to you for your attitude and what you've achieved. But my question for you, at the beginning of the slides, you were talking about your two options for the cold water and hot water pouring out. Obviously for the cold, you put your thumb as a feeler. What do you do when you're pouring out hot water with nobody else to assist you to know when there's adequate water and before it overflows your cup?
So,
how do you solve that issue?
So that one, you feel the cup and the heat rises as the water rises, and listen to the sound of the water. As you're filling a container, you can feel the sound change. With hot water, you pour it a little bit, well, I pour it a little bit slower because the heat isn't instant. Some people here might say there are devices that I can put over the cup that will beep. I don't do that because there are just too many gadgets in my life. I don't need another one for just one particular purpose. So that's what I do. So slow, feel the heat on the outside of the cup, and to listen to the sound of the water rising.
Thank you.
No worries. I hear steps.
Hey, Santiago, can you tell us a bit more about your work on public transport accessibility and where we could find out some information about that?
Yes, so currently the work that we're doing is called Halo, and happy to connect afterwards. So what it is we have developed a system that when a user is at a bus stop, they see the buses you can pick the bus stop and see the buses, and you select the bus that you want, and the bus driver gets an alert in their console saying somebody's waiting for you at this particular bus stop, please stop. And then you can also select the bus stop where you want to get off at, and again, the driver gets a similar alert. At the moment, we're preparing for a trial to happen next year here in Sydney. We are looking for other cities to join if they're interested. At the moment, we don't have a website because most of the stuff we still need to deal with some red tape stuff. But happy to connect and show you a demo if anybody's interested, and so on and so forth.
Santiago, sorry, it's Angel over here. I know that your focus is, I guess, in the area of engineering for accessibility. But have you ever, and do you work on projects that aren't necessarily specific to disability problem solving? Do you work in general areas with other teams of people just developing new products, and what are your experiences there?
Yes. So I have done some other work outside of disabilities. These are just general designs of some pieces of software to count data sets, or again, the projects, they're not very big projects, but I have found the best way for making sure that teams feel comfortable working with somebody with a disability is I say, listen, I'm happy for you to ask any questions as long as they're genuine. If you're annoying me, I will annoy you back. I know that sounds very childish, but that is the best way. So I said to them, listen, I use a screen reader. This is how I work. There will be some things that I might take a little bit longer, but I'm sure that if we work together, we will get across. Ask any questions you see fit. Don't be annoying, because I will enjoy that very, very much. That has been my experience working with other teams, irrelevant and outside of the field of accessibility.
Hi, Santiago. I can't help but notice that both you and Angel are what I would call overachievers. So I'm wondering, as an immigrant, how you think we should be able to persuade our government that people with disabilities are actually a real advantage to our country because they tend to be overachievers, rather than what they're trying to do at the moment, which is say, no, people with disabilities are going to be a drain on our resources.
Well, I'm going to quote Angel in here, because in the general landscape of accessibility, currently accessibility is a medical model, and that's applied across the immigration sector. So when and this happened to me. For 10 years, we were waiting for a residency because in the eyes of the Australian government, I am a burden to society. I cost a lot of money, and I'm going to detract from people here in Australia to access resources. So I think from my perspective, we need to understand that we all live in this planet, and the only visa that counts is the one you get at birth, and it expires when you die. And we need to understand, thank you, and we need to understand that disability is not a medical model. Disability is a social model. Yes, I'm blind, and yes, there are people in our community that gives us bad names because they just say, well, I'm blind, treat me special, and I'm going to stay at home, and everybody feels sorry for me. I get that, but we're not all like that. The majority of us just want to live our regular lives. We just want to go to work. We just want to do things. So it comes down to understanding that disability is not a medical thing.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add to something, Sarah, to just what you said. I think it's important to remember that I know that the people with disability that are out in the public space doing this, I guess we do seem like overachievers, but, you know, people with disability in general are people. And it's the reason that we are trying to do these things is to make life more accessible for everyone with disability. Yes. Just because you have disability doesn't mean you have to be an overachiever or you have to change things for your community.
That's right.
You have the license to be a human being and have your own lived experience. Right. And not everyone has the opportunities that we have had to be able to do the things that we're doing. So I think that's important to acknowledge, because, you know, disability is diversity as well. Yeah. There's diversity within our community.
Yeah, we all need to be able to decide what we want to do, and nobody gets to hold us to anybody's standard because we're all unique.
It's Sean Murphy. I've got one question and a comment. Mm-hmm. Both of you have provided an attitude, what I call attitude presence in the disability space. Unfortunately, in the disability space, you've got people who have a positive attitude and they end up doing things because they've just got that right attitude. Then you've got the other group of people who don't have the attitude and seem to don't achieve anything. I had a conversation with someone on this, and what came out is that if you've got that positive attitude, you can achieve anything that you put your mind to. In relation to your accessible public transport, the simple solution is to have, like to do it, which they should have on trains, is have the audio announcement plus a print announcement on the actual bus when you're coming up to the next bus stop. So have you thought of that in your project?
So audio announcements inside the buses have been trialled here and in Brisbane and in other cities. We have thought of that. The reason why we're doing it this way is we don't need any infrastructure, any extra infrastructure at the moment. And all of it is in the user and driver's control. So when you do the selection, it's up to you and the driver, so the communication is sort of direct. The idea later on is to push for a system that it doesn't matter whether you're technically able or not. You have various options. So you can hail a bus from the platform, you can listen to the audio announcements on the bus to know when your next stop is. But this is sort of the beginning that we chose simply because of easy execution and acceptance by the various cities, because they tend to be very reluctant when you say, hey, I can't catch your bus. They're like, yeah, let me show you how to catch my bus. And if you need to show me how to do that, we have a serious problem. With regards to your comment, you are correct. People are in two different camps, and some are, bring it on, whatever comes my way, I'll do it. And if I failed, it was a good learning experience. But there are people that were brought up in different circumstances, and they have different life experiences that means that they might not feel as comfortable saying, bring on that problem. And we need to accept that. It's sort of like the person that likes to be quiet at meetings or likes to be in a corner at parties. That's nothing wrong. It's just, that's who they are. And if I can make a change, and those of us who feel like any challenge is a good challenge, for those who aren't as comfortable, I'm hoping that that's a good outcome.
I probably just want to build on that as well. I think those things aren't positive and negative attitudes. I actually feel that my negativity towards this cause is what drives me. I'm actually inherently a very negative person. And I don't necessarily think it's called, I think it just manifests differently. And also we have a lot of, in the activism space, we have different approaches. So we have some people that get very loud and very angry. I'm not one of those people. I'm happy to sit down and have an in-depth conversation with someone. Let's spend 5 hours, have a wine and chat about it. I'm not going to yell at you on Twitter. But both of those approaches are effective. We need both of those to get things done. And I think everyone is effective in their own way.
Yeah, we need a bit of every theory, not just one theory. And yeah, everybody has different approaches.
I think the audience has run out of questions, but I have one for you, Santiago. So I loved what you said about getting more people with disability involved in STEM. For those that aren't in the STEM field, how can we as a accessibility community involve more people with disability in the design and development process, and when should that happen?
Well, I'll break that answer into two responses, and I'll try to do it as fast as possible. I know we're time. The first one is as soon as possible in any project, as soon as possible, independent of whether that's digital or whether that's physical. As soon as possible, involve somebody with a disability, and if you can, involve people with various disabilities. So that's the first part. The second part is we're in a very unique position as people who are working in the STEM fields because, let's face it, we find challenges exciting. So when, for example, I arrived at QUT and I said to my professors, I want to study electrical engineering, they said, how are we going to do that? I said, I don't know. And you're going to have to teach me stuff that I don't know, and I'm going to have to teach you stuff that you don't know so that you can teach me stuff that I don't know. But what we realized very quickly is that being in the STEM field, this became an engineering challenge for them. So when people see it from that perspective and they see the potential outcomes later, they realize, oh, it's not complicated. It's just saying, at the beginning, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no clue. And this was me at the beginning of my degree. I just knew that I liked computers, mathematics, and technology-related stuff. But now I realize that if we sit down and we say, it's a challenge, I don't know how to do it, but if we take it step by step, we'll be able to realize challenges are exciting to face. And most people that want to, I want to emphasize that word, want to pursue a STEM degree, irrelevant of the circumstances, they like challenges. They like solving puzzles. They might do it differently, but they're always keen for one.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Any final questions from the audience? Oh, yes, we do have one.
Hi, Santiago. My name is Helen. Just wanted to bring up an article that I read some time ago in an airport travel system. So they introduced some lanyards for people to be identified discreetly that they have some disabilities, so the attendees or other staff can find them and seek them for any help. So it was something that I thought it would be good to implement in our transport system as well. So there are people who can communicate, and there are people who with intellectual disabilities who get a public transport which are not able to communicate what they need to the drivers as well. As you are involved in this public transport kind of project, can you please bring this to the relevant authorities and tell them if we could introduce a lanyard system or even a wristband so the drivers can monitor and find, okay, do you need any help? Are you okay? So that's something that if you could put forward, that would be a really good help.
Sure, I'll be happy to pass the message along with the various cities that, well, Sydney in this case is the one that gave us the go-ahead, and with whomever says yes to the next trial. Thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it.
One quick one here.
Great.
Hi, Santiago. My name's Scott Nixon. I'm the gentleman who guessed that you had the iPhone in your hand.
Nice
and
job.
I am totally blind, and I would just like to say shame on every single person in this room with vision who didn't think he would be holding something as simple as an iPhone in his hand, because, you know, I just sat there and went, it's an iPhone. It's got to be a bloody iPhone, and no one's guessing it, so I'm going to just iPhone, just got it out of the way, you know, so... But yeah, just thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today. I'm going to ignore the fact that you've stolen 5 of my lines from my talk tomorrow, but everyone likes a good repeat every now and then. But yeah, it's just been fantastic and really encouraging that you've been able to have the guts to go and do the training that you've done and break down those barriers and show people that just because someone can't see what's going on around them, it doesn't mean that they can't interact and get involved and actually become proficient in an area that a lot of people wouldn't think someone with a significant vision impairment would be involved in. It's just absolutely fantastic, so thanks.
No, thank you very much, Scott, and thank you guys all for listening. And before I forget, the last slide is not accessible, but those of you who can see, those are my contact details. Please feel free to take them down. And those of you who cannot see, again, easy to spot, but just ask one of the people from the conference. I'll be around and happy to exchange contact details and take it from there. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Santiago.